And I'm going to remember how to share my screen. It's like it's been a minute since I've gotten accustomed to being in person now. All right. Okay, so well, over to you, Kelly. You can start this off.
No, you go first. Your emoji's up there first.
Okay.
Right.
Well, we're there together.
I know.
Do you see the similarities in our Bitmojis? We're frantically working all the time, so that's us. So Ani Kinawea, hello everyone. My name is Jody Williams, and I what can I tell you about myself? I am the co-chair for a provincial organization called the First Nations Métis Inuit Education Association of Ontario. In case you don't know what that is, I'll pop that into the chat box link below. And we do all kinds of work and liaise with incredible people like Kelly Crawford here, and support Indigenous education across the province, K to 12, and even into post-secondary. I also work, my day job is the Indigenous Education Coordinator for Dufferin-Peel Catholic District School Board. And I'm a mom of 5 girls, and our claim to fame is that we live in a house with 1 bathroom. Yes, it's possible in today's world. The toilet paper is always an issue, but we have survived. They're almost all of them are now teenagers, and we have 1 granddaughter. And I've known Kelly for quite some time, and we've done lots of work together. And we're really excited to have this conversation with you all tonight. So over to you, Kelly.
Okay. Ani Kinawea, Bamashne Megazekwe Indigenous Wabijeshe Dodem, Chiking Donji. So hi everyone. My traditional name is Soaring Eagle Woman. I'm from Chiking First Nation on Manitoulin Island. I'm trying to think about it. What should I share? So I've been in education for the majority, well, in education and government related roles for the majority of my career, from K to post-secondary. Been doing treaty education, which I'll kind of tell the story a little later, just about how that came to be, but been doing treaty education for a couple of years now. I've been a teacher, VP, principal, director. My current day job, as Jody says, which usually doesn't, as everyone on the call can probably attest to, doesn't really always fall just within the day. But I'm the assistant director for Indigenous initiatives at the University of Toronto, Scarborough campus. And mom of 2 and of 1 Yorkie. And I say that because in our virtual world, you might hear Floyd, which I apologize for, but he has been on the news. He has been in various meetings. So you might actually hear that. So anyways, well, I welcome you guys, and we're really looking forward to sharing. And it is sharing of information for all of you to expand. And I will, so we'll continue on, I think, with our presentation. And the intention is to kind of give an overview and show you where, well, there's a couple pieces, but specifically for this treaty resource, showing you parts of it. And then, you can navigate that. And if you want to touch base with us after with any of your thoughts, that's definitely welcome. Okay, so I was telling you about how this came to be. So when I was working for one of the political territory organizations, the Anishinaabec Nation, back in, I won't even say the year, but so I had left the provincial school system and went to support education and governance negotiations in a different role. And of course, when people find out you're a teacher, It's, oh, we want to, do this. Do you think you could whip us up a lesson plan tonight? And that's kind of where this all started. And I went from that to developing an elementary kit, a physical elementary kit, to a secondary kit, to some books for primary, primary, junior, I would say. And then it really did coincide with COVID, really, which wasn't necessarily planned. So this resource we ended up developing. So this is the elementary resource, but online. So that's kind of what we'll be talking about. But I first want to talk about just treaties in general. So I've done a lot of work with different, teachers, students, and I think it's really one of those things. When we look at the history of our education system, it has been a tool for colonialism. And, there's a reason why a lot of people don't know a lot about this information, right? Very purposeful. And it's really hard to understand, and sometimes it's hard to take. So if you wouldn't mind indulging me, and Jody, you can be my person just so people aren't having to unmute or whatnot. So this is a house. So let's just say this is Jody's house. So Jody, I worked really late today. I really don't feel like driving all the way home. I gotta say today the 404 and the 400 was a disaster for me. But anyways, so this is Jody's house. Do you think I could maybe just come over for dinner tonight?
Of course, Kelly.
Okay, so I go over to Jody's house for dinner, and she's a fantastic cook, like a fantastic cook. So
Wait, let's be honest.
Kevin's a
fantastic cook.
I stand corrected. So yeah, so great meal, and I'm like, you know what? Kind of tired. Do I really want to make that journey home? Do you think I could sleep on your couch?
Absolutely.
All right. So I sleep on Jody's couch. I wake up. Kevin makes breakfast. So, it's great, very hospitable, and I'm getting quite comfortable. Right. So the next thing you know, if you can, and of course, this is an analogy, but if you can imagine, the next thing you know, I'm, really comfortable there. And can I maybe stay in one of your spare bedrooms?
Absolutely.
Great. So I stay in your spare bedroom. And, very comfortable. A couple months go by. And then the next thing you know, I've taken over her entire house. And I've put a little gated fence in the corner back of her property. And that's where she's going to live. And
don't forget, Kelly.
What?
You also invited all of your cousins.
Friends. Yeah. Of course I did. So she's going to stay in that and with her family in that, in the back of the backyard. And I get to tell her when she gets to leave. And then I impose various rules upon her. And that's a quick analogy of what's really happened here. And it's a difficult conversation, and I've found in talking with educators, for the most part, and I do see definitely a change, but there's also a fear, right? As educators, of having to, and I always recommend having to this is how it is, and we're going to go on this learning journey together, because that's just what it has to be, and that's okay. So kind of, working through that, I can remember working with the first, I think it was I always get this right, grade 4, 5, 6 class, and working with them in a session and going through. So the elementary kit was originally based on We Are All Treaty People book written by Morris Switzer. So going through that sort of content piece, this in grade 5, he was upset. He's like, I couldn't believe, how come no one told me any of this information? Right. So, and that was many, many years ago. And so some of the feedback from the book, that's where the lesson plans came from. And then of course the kit, and it was about how do we use this in the classroom? And how do we, because there is a lot of content in the book. So with the kit, of course, making videos and different things out of that and stemming from that, and really looking at what do students need to know, and then how we can connect it to the Ontario curriculum, as opposed to this is what the curriculum says, and how are we going to feed it with resources. So really that was the strategy behind that. So we can go on to the next. Okay.
So
Jody?
one of the big key pieces, right, in all of this is, you know, going back to Kelly's analogy, was that this was about these agreements were about sharing land. Nowhere was it ever about come on in and just take right over and help yourself to all the resources. That's not at all what these agreements were about. And so, you know, over time and education has also been a tool to uphold one side of the story and to perpetuate a colonial narrative. And so that's why this is very, very new for most of Canada. Now I'm going to ask you to put your guess in the chat box. How many nations can you identify in this picture? And if you think about it, you know, this is kind of often a picture we show in our classes when we're studying geography. So how many nations would you say? Okay, more than one? Hundreds? Don't be shy. It's just guessing. 50 plus, 1, over 1,000. Supposed to say 2. Not sure. Okay, the definition of individual nations. Political boundaries only show 2, over 300. So, okay, great. But so there's a lot of, nobody really knows. And it's okay if you don't know. That has been the purpose all along, was to keep things hidden, keep the truth hidden, and to not even talk about this. And so if you think about what do we perpetuate when we're teaching in our schools, we would look at this map and probably say, you know, there's Canada and the United States. But what about the Anishinaabec Nation? Could you even identify the area that the Anishinaabec Nation covers? What about the Ongohongwe? Or could you even identify the 2 major confederacies within the bounds of what's known as Ontario? Like, these are just basic geographical facts that are completely omitted out of our education system. And so this is why treaty education is so critical and important, and why we're so happy that you're all here to take up this, what Kelly was saying. It's a learning journey. It's taking little bits and building on and continuing with your learning. And we always remind people that when we're engaging in learning about something we don't really know much about, inquiry is your best friend. And it also is a great pedagogical tool in your classroom. And when you come at teaching new information with your students that you're maybe not comfortable yourself with, you know, when you're honest about your level of knowledge in the classroom, it actually helps students take risks in their own learning and be okay with asking questions and not having the answer and finding out the answer together. So we're going to talk a little bit about, well, we're going to focus on the Anishinaabec Nation because that's what this resource is built around. But before we get into that, I just want to point out, I'm going to pop this link in the chat box for you. This is something that was put out by the First Nations Métis Inuit Education Association of Ontario. And we built this, again, just to kind of give some pedagogical considerations when talking about treaty education. So I'll just show you very quickly. I'll go through it quickly because it's there for you to have access. But just, maybe I should go into the document. So really important, again, like what was mentioned before, some key understandings around treaties. And, you know, Canada couldn't even exist without these treaty agreements. And again, this has always been about land sharing. And what's happened over time to kind of simplify things and how Canada ends up becoming created was through an awful process of legislated genocide and land theft. And so we have big problems currently as a result of that, but there's also solutions. And when we all kind of learn about why the current issues are what they are, when you hear things come up on the media, like, I don't know if it was last year, the year before, the fishery dispute out on the East Coast, a lot of people didn't understand what was going on with the Mi'kmaq fisheries or what's going on in Wet'suwet'en with you know, the people there who are saying, no, you can't put a pipeline through our territory, but yet it's still going through anyway. This is why this education is so important, so that we learn to understand why these are happening. In here are some resources that you can learn more. We highly recommend these two books, Unsettling Canada and the Reconciliation Manifesto. There's links in there to them. And then again, the importance of making sure you're centering Indigenous voices. There's all kinds of little video clips in here that you can utilize for either your own learning or bringing into the classroom. Oh, sorry, I gotta do that otherwise. And again, you want to just be careful of what narrative gets presented. So be careful when you're going to sites. And unfortunately, you know, I hate to say it, but you can't trust government sites because you're going to get a very different interpretation often than what the truth is. And this again is part of the goal of what we're trying to do here is bring forward truths that have been very intentionally left out. So look for opportunities to connect to present day, what's going on in the present day for kids to learn about and understand. And then always moving to action. It's kind of like the now what, so what. So to be thinking about that. So that's just a little bit about what's in there. And then this was created as just to kind of give an overview of what the conversation looks like from K to 8 in the elementary classroom. So if you think about primary, you know, our little ones, these conversations are around that, just again, thinking about that map, right? So disrupting the colonial maps and the colonial boundaries and recognizing that there are Indigenous nations that still are here. And we have to be careful in elementary because oftentimes we use past tense language like used to live or used to be here. So, you know, be mindful of that. Still here, still always existing. That Indigenous nations had treaty agreements with each other before Europeans came. And that we have natural laws that keep us in good relations with the earth. So then as you move into grades 4 to 6, you know, you can start to see where you can start having these conversations around land sharing no longer being equal. So who's benefiting now? And that, you know, a lot of what's been happening in terms of the British Crown, then later Canada, is that lands are now being used for resource extraction for profit, and who's feeling the impact, right? So this is where you can start to do some really big inquiries into the impacts of resource extraction on First Nation communities, for example, and you know, why, even how this is now leading into climate change. In grades 7 and 8, it's now, this is where you really get into looking at legislation, the introduction of the Indian Act, and all of those pieces that are now really intentional to protect the land theft that has happened. And again, building on the ideas of understanding resource extraction, is now driving our economy to this day. It's actually like, this is, you know, where you can start to really build in those links on connecting colonialism into the current climate crisis we're now in. So sometimes people will say, well, why do I have to teach this? What has it got to do with me? Well, we're all being impacted by the climate crisis right now. So this is an everybody problem, and it needs an everybody solution. So again, 7 and 8, particularly in grade 8, is when residential schools starts getting talked about. And again, making all of those connections to people being intentionally moved off. So thinking back towards, or back to that analogy that Kelly had made around moving out of the house into a little tiny corner outside. This is, you know, the creation of reserves, movement of people for the purpose of getting at the land. So that's to kind of see this, to kind of point out a continuum for you, so you can see how things build on and where it can fit in each of those grade levels and what the conversations can look like. Okay, so.
Forgot to unmute, sorry. So this resource specifically, Ezhi-nawending, how we are related. So it is the elementary physical kit that I was talking about. Oh, see, I told you, I'm so sorry, that is Floyd. So it is the elementary kit, but not like it is, but it isn't. So there's part of it, but really in this whole resource and in this website, and it's on a website that's available free of cost. There's no cost involved with that, but it includes 7 animated characters, 36 animated videos, 18 video recordings, 9 interactive videos, and 2 VR 360 pieces. So what we wanted to do, as I mentioned before, you know, obviously we want to give you the opportunity when you're on your own to kind of go through it, but we want to kind of just show you a little bit. So we're going to show you our before we go the intro video. So this is Alex. So in the actual physical kit, you can see the wampum belt, the Lego wampum belt on the back, hanging on the wall. So Alex developed that, and that was actually part of the physical kit. So he's been sort of on this journey. And I often share this story when Jody was referring to, you know, Canada, how Canada became Canada, and would they have been able to be Canada. So I often share this story, and it's about the Treaty of Niagara, you know, which was a fundamental piece to Canada becoming Canada. Everyone celebrates Canada Day. Not everyone, but you know what Canada Day is. So the 250th celebration of the Treaty of Niagara, which is fundamental in Canada becoming Canada. There was that celebration. There was about 55 or so, like, don't quote me, 55, 56 people. Most of them were leadership or government officials, and there were 3 children, and 2 of them were mine. So that's often what I always think about that, and how how are we going to be able to change that as some of these pieces haven't been shared in our education systems. So this is Alex, and Alex used to come to sessions that we would do with teachers and students, and he would, I do different rotations with the activities when it was the physical kit, and he would man the Lego table, and I would always laugh at him because he would always tell me, oh, Kelly, sometimes teachers just don't listen to me. So he's quite the character, but this is his animated version, and this is the intro. So we'll do this, and then we'll go in, we'll show you parts of the resources, and then we have a couple other things to share.
Ani, Kinawea. Hello everyone, it's me, Alex. I'm so happy that you are here going on this learning journey to better understand the importance of treaty education. I'm going to explain how this journey works. Let's get started! First, you will start here, on this landing page. You will notice these different turtles. Each turtle represents a section of learning. Turtle 1 is Who are the Anishinaabec? Turtle 2 is What is a treaty? Turtle 3 is Wampum. Turtle 4 is Gado-na-ganana, the dish with one spoon. Turtle 5 is the Treaty of Niagara. Turtle 6 is the Robinson-Huron Treaty. Turtle 7 is the Anishnavik Hall of Heroes. And Turtle 8 is the last stop, bringing it all together. As you complete each section, you will notice on the right-hand side the wampum belt will begin to get colored in. Ready to get started? Let's go! Ani, Kinawea. Hello everyone, it's me,
Sorry about that.
Alex.
No problem. Okay, so as far as where the resource is located, so it is on Anishnavik.ca. And what you do is on that top, you'll see the big yellow arrow. It's pointed to education resources. And that's where you'll find these various resources. So that, oh, where do we go? There we, oh, you're on the actual, sorry. Okay. Oh, we're doing it live time. Okay.
Yep.
So education resources. So we click on that, and then we get into that resource there.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's here. Just as an FYI, we're going to be doing secondary on October 4th, but there's the secondary one, just as an FYI.
Yeah.
So
It hasn't been launched yet, but
let me just put this link in the chat box for you all first before I click on the resource. Also, I popped in the chat box a link to that learning continuum, so you can bookmark that. And here is the link to the page that you're currently looking at. So here we go. Click on this.
okay, so we don't have to do the intro video because that's actually what we played for you. So along with all of what I was speaking about before, so there are different what I call kind of teacher tips, or just, you know, like more info. You want to just scroll down.
I'm just
So just talk.
you know what's missing? Sorry, Kelly. There's like a whole section missing, like the people that contributed, that introduced, like there's a piece missing here.
It should be in there.
I know, I just don't, oh, anyway.
Just keep going.
Let's fix that.
Just keep going. Yeah, so different areas. So I think maybe, you know, even with Jody, I was thinking, like, from this piece, if we want to even share that first what is an elder video, and then if we can go to the actually into the turtle map, and maybe just do Robinson Huron.
Elder is very honorable.
Yep.
People classify elders in regards to what kind of gift that they bring forth to them. So being classified as an elder is something that we carry within ourselves, like a bundle such as the pipe, a bundle such as the eagle fan or eagle whistle. All these things that we carry are all just symbols of who we are, but also being able to give direction to people in regards to understanding our connection to that land as part of being an elder is to share all our wisdom to these people in regards to what we believe in, what we see, and how we are looking after ourselves and how we look after our next generation to make sure there's always something there for the future. And that's when we say, so we respect the past, the present, and the future. So that's part of what an elder does. He looks back and he reflects on what he's learned, and he reflects on regards for how he looks at the now in regards to what's happening, but also looking at the future for our generations and that. That's what an elder does.
And then you'll notice that there's some prompts that come with the watching these videos. And the idea too is that, you know, we bring the voices of different community members into your classroom, so that you don't have to speak on their behalf. You let the videos speak for themselves, and then you can make those connections in your classroom. So maybe, and again, for like, if we're thinking about primary grades, the concept of the importance of like who's in your community, who's in your family, who are those important people in your life that help share wisdom and help you along in your life, that give you good advice. So there's lots, so those are the connections that you can make in your classroom when you're listening and watching these videos. Which one did you say you wanted to do next?
I think, well, I mean, they can go through these, you know, just for the sake of time. But
Yeah.
I think if we scroll down and we get into it, I think that we share a couple of those pieces. Oh, we already did that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Okay, so as you can see, it you know, brings you to the first turtle.
The Anishinaabec has come from a huge and vast nation that has been around since time immemorial, and we still exist today. Let's listen to my friend Isaac, who will share more about this great nation.
The Anishinaabec are a large group of indigenous people that span all the way from Quebec right to the Rocky Mountains, all the way down to Oklahoma, up through to Ottawa. So if you look at that great big triangle, that's where the Anishinaabec live. And of course, we share this land with so many other tribes and so many other nations of animals and trees and plants. And so it's really a shared responsibility that we have with all these other tribes living in the same areas. And that's who we are as Anishinaabec people. Some of the names are the Nakwe Anishinaabec, the Mississauga Anishinaabec, the Odishawagami Anishinaabec, the Mi'kmaq, the Potawatomi Anishinaabec, the Ojibwe, the Odawa Anishinaabec. And so there's many groups amongst the Anishinaabec Nation. And amongst this group, we also have many alliances and many different types of agreements that we have with each other. And one of them is the Three Fires Confederacy, which they call Nskweshkodewan, which is a confederacy between the Potawatomi, the Odawa, and the Ojibwe.
I'm just gonna scroll it over. So you get the
Anishinaabec Nation released a book called We Are All Treaty People. This next video is from that book and will also provide more information to help you learn about the Anishinaabec.
I'm just gonna pause it because
Yeah,
just
we don't.
yeah.
Yeah,
We're not going to show you everything, but each part has it tells you what's in the little learning module there. So who are the Anishinaabec? We are all treaty people, and who we are is also in there by Duke Peltier. Did you want to talk about this one?
The map.
Yeah, when you said the map. Oh, the turtle map.
Yeah, the turtle map.
Okay.
I mean, I have a story about this map too, but I don't know that we.
Okay, we'll just we'll continue on. And you'll notice also how this is structured. So there's part 1, part 2, and part 3 is kind of where primary stops. And then the learning continues on. You'll see a progression of information that gets a little bit more complicated from, you wouldn't necessarily show primary kids, but the juniors could handle and the intermediates could handle when you get into some of the further along on the turtle journey. So again, like looking at these ideas of understanding treaties of promise. So when talking to especially the little ones about, what is a promise? What does it mean to uphold a promise or keep a promise? What happens when you break your promise? What's the important, and then talking about sharing, because again, this is about sharing land. We share land with the animals as well. So there's lots of really beautiful entry points to have those conversations with the kids. And I do want to show a little piece off this one, Kelly, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So let's just dive in. So in this one here, we're looking at wampum. What is wampum?
Welcome back. Let's talk about wampum belts. I would like to share a story with
That's
you.
Kelly.
Ani Bojo, Alex Dijnakas, Dokis Ndonjaba, Sturgeon Falls and Diam. Hello, my name is
I'm just going to skip over this part. So maybe you recognize the 2 books that was mentioned earlier. So Alex narrates this book. I just want to skip over to, okay, so this is one of the
So we believe
animations that
many
we were
years
mentioning.
ago, 2 women were fighting on the moon, and one of them was thrown off. She was carrying a medicine bag that was filled with star medicine. And when she landed on the earth, of course, she splashed into a great big pile of water. They believe it was a big lake. And when she hit that water, her medicine bag opened up, and all of that star medicine, it settled down to the bottom of the lake. And of course, our people know that that medicine is there. But not only do we know, but the animals know it's there too. And we believe there's a little animal called the Monadush. And what it does is it crawls around the bottom of the lakes and the oceans, and it gathers this star medicine on its back. And then when it's time for it to pass away into the next world, it leaves that medicine on the shoreline, which are shells. And of course, our people take these shells and they make beads out of them, which are then transformed into wampum belts. And we believe that these wampum belts are very sacred agreements because it includes everything from the very depths of the waters all the way to the stars and everything in between. And these agreements all have to do with the sacred code on how to live here on earth with nature and of course with every spirit that is here. And our people believe this to be true.
So I just wanted to share that because one thing that we want to also emphasize is that oftentimes we'll hear things being referenced as story. And then when you hear story, it's also associated with myths and legends and lore. So we need to really stop doing that. Story in this context is a way of transferring knowledge. So it could be geographical information, it could be scientific information, historical, all of all of it together. And so so when you're talking about this with your students, make sure to emphasize that story in this case is actually true. And when you think about it from if you ever get into the science of the quahog, it's like one of the oldest living creatures in the world. And it's known for being able to live the longest as well. And so there's a lot of really important stuff when it comes to when we talk about wampum and why it's so important. But also there's that element, that very spiritual and very sacred and special component that comes with that hopefully has been being conveyed in the video, that people have a deeper appreciation for the seriousness of wampum. And so when it's being used in those belts, that it's really, really, really important. So I just wanted to mention that. And then you can see here, it gets into some other people contribute as well to understanding wampum and wampum belts. Oh, and those were, sorry, I meant those links were those stories in the language. Which one did you want to go to next, Kelly?
I think it's the next one. Next turtle. Oh, no, next one after that.
Not the Treaty of Niagara?
No, I wanted to go to Robinson Huron. Because we're not going through everyone, right? Like, I mean, we can.
Yeah.
I think they get
We'd
the
be
idea.
here for 4
They get
hours.
the idea. Yeah, they get the idea.
Okay, here we go.
But I would like them to see this because people think that treaties, you know, are something of the past, and which they're not. They're very much alive today. We have litigation happening currently, so I think this is a good one to show.
The 1850 Robinson-Huron Treaty was originally
Not because
intended
it's me
for
talking.
peaceful and respectful coexistence in a shared territory. However, neither the Crown, Canada, or Ontario have lived up to their treaty obligations. As a result, this had led to a century-old dispute and is now before the courts. This delay has had enormous negative consequences for the Anishinaabec. Before we get into learning about this treaty, we have to remember that the Anishinaabec never agreed to surrender their land. Instead, they agreed to share it with the newcomers. In this next video, Ogama Pelche will provide an analogy to help explain what this means.
Skip that one, Jody.
Everybody has a home, and sometimes
Now that you have watched this analogy, how would you feel if this happened to you? If you were forced out of your home, what actions might you take? In this next video, Ogama Pelche will provide an overview of the 1850 Robinson-Huron Treaty.
as I look across the waters here of our homelands, I think about treaty making and what that means to myself and what it could mean to you as you come here to visit me. So I want to share a little bit about what I know and what I've come to know about the 1850 treaty. I look at the hills over in the distance, the mountain range, and the vast amount of resources that are there. And prior to the 1850 Robinson-Huron Treaty, and in two particular locations on the north shore of Lake Huron and the east shore of Lake Superior, the Anishinaabe leadership began to express their concerns with the mining activity that was taking place without their authorization, without their approval. So in this one instance, a group of leaders gathered together and put their canoe in the water, along with a cannon that was left over from the War of 1812 that they still had. They paddled up the shores of Lake Superior to Mica Bay and demanded that the miners that were mining copper in that area demanded that they leave because they didn't have authorization. And so the mining company did leave, but they went and told the Upper Canada government at the time that the Anishinaabe peoples evicted them and told them to leave, that they didn't have approval for mining in the area. And what the government ended up doing was they sent a group of individuals who began traveling the north shore of Lake Huron and talked to each of the Anishinaabe communities about what their territory was, if they were interested in developing a treaty. And within this report that was given back to the government, they provided the authorization to enter into treaty discussions with the Anishinaabe peoples. And this is how they had become to gather at the meeting place identified at Baoting, or what we now know as Sault Ste. Marie. So when the leaders gathered in Baoting in September of 1850, they had a good understanding of what they were looking for from the government, because it was the government that was asking for a treaty to be made so that they can allow for mining activity, timber harvesting. And part of the terms that they agreed to was that the Anishinaabe peoples would reserve their own lands to protect them as they were, without interference from the government. They wished to put these terms forward because of their discussions with other leaders across the territory. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 outlined a process of when and how treaty was to be made, and it had to be at a public meeting, there had to be consent, and only with the Crown could these agreements be made. The 1850 gathering specifically demanded terms that they wished to reserve lands for themselves, and they also wished for a share of any resource benefits in the form of an annuity that was to be increased from time to time. They also wanted to preserve their fishing and hunting rights throughout the territory. And the 1850 treaty, as it was agreed to, did not eliminate or cede or surrender any Anishinaabe rights to the treaty territory. So as I sit here sharing with you my understanding of the Robinson-Huron Treaty, I think about the hope of our people, that our understanding will also be understood by federal and provincial governments who are representatives of the Crown who agreed to this treaty. And all we're asking for is our continued use and access of the lands, and to continue to protect them for all of our future generations.
Okay, perfect.
So before we move on, what, if you're watching this or using this in your classroom, what kind of questions do you think you might be able to generate with students? Just put your thoughts in the chat box. And if you want to maybe also indicate like what grade you teach or what capacity you work in, how might you make connections into your classroom? Or you can unmute yourself if you want to be really brave. Okay, yes. Drawing connections to the grade 3 curriculum, the strand on living and working in Ontario, impacts of land use. Yeah. So certainly, and thinking about, even asking has permission to make use of lands.
Yeah, okay, so land protection resistance. Mm-hmm. So Jody, do you want to, concept of stewardship?
Yeah. So thinking about our land acknowledgements that we hear, right? And how to make them more meaningful and how they can live in your classes.
And I think that was a good point too about I can't follow see if I'm not able to follow all the quickly, but just having worked in both systems, both in the public system and the First Nation system, absolutely. It's not to say, and this often happens, our own people need to know their history as well. And that's why we are all treaty people. That's what that means. And we all have to learn those histories, and it shouldn't be assumed that one would. Yes. Do you think these treaties still exist? What happened if he didn't honor the treaty? Those are all good.
Yeah, and of course, doing those charts, right? Like one thing you found interesting, one thing that was new, something that surprised you, right? To generate even more questions and discussion and learning into.
Okay, do you
So
want
awesome.
go on?
Yeah, we'll go on to. So this next one actually has a game in it, and I'm going to, so in the video you're going to learn, well, I'll show a little bit of this one and then I'll move into the game that's there.
The Anishinaabec Nation over the years has had many incredible leaders who have contributed to these lands. Many of these people are hardly mentioned in the history books or talked about today. The next video series will introduce you to just a few of these incredible people. There are many more, but for now, here are just a few of our heroes. In the next section, called the Anishinaabec Hall of Heroes, first click on the TV to watch the introduction, then click on each portrait to learn more about that individual.
So as you can see, so this is where you'll interact. Morris Switzer talks about the heroes of the war from the War of 1812. So there's a whole little piece on this, and then you can, after you watch this video, then you can click to hear more about each of these individuals. Now, one of the things that I think is really underrepresented in schools and classrooms is contributions. So I know a lot of people, there's a lot of, Kelly mentioned this earlier, right? There's a lot of fear when it comes to teaching about Indigenous peoples or history, because there's just a big gap in terms of knowledge and knowing all of this history. But contributions, you can't, that's a safe area as an entry point if you're not sure and you're just starting out somewhere. And so this is like a starting point, and you can just go on forever in terms of contributions and, influential people, past and present, in all kinds of areas and fields like scientists, culinary arts, music, like there's just, it's endless where you can talk about contributions. And then if we think about, who's represented in our schools or our curriculum in our classes and who's not. So this is another really great way of bringing in representation. So this is an escape room. So I'm going to show you a little bit of how this works. I won't go through the whole thing, but I will need your help. So somebody is going to have to help provide some answers. So first, this is help save the earth. We need you. The year is 2052 and humans have once again created havoc on the earth. They have forgotten that they are to live in accordance with the Chi-nak-nagewin, the great law, which outlines how we are to live sustainably and not take more than we need. In order to save the planet and all of its inhabitants, we need to go on this important mission. To complete the mission, you will need to visit with the great Anishinaabec leaders of the past who will provide you with the codes needed. Good luck. The world is counting on you. So first, we listen to this video, which I won't play. Now we'll travel back to 1850 to meet the great Shingwak and complete your first challenge. Once completed, you will be given a code to get to your next destination. So you could just give this to your students to do independently and have them collect each of the codes, and then they get the answer at the end, and then you know they've completed the task when they can show you the final answer. So here's kind of the layout of it, challenge number 1. So we're going to click here to learn about Chief Shingwak. And then you're going to complete a challenge. So we're just going to do this off the cuff. We're not going to, we're going to see what you just know. All right. When was Chief Shingwak born? 1854, 1850, or 1773? Somebody has to shout an answer out, put it in. Okay, somebody, okay, 1773. You are correct. What war did Shingwak play an instrumental role in? The War of 1812, 1850, or World War I? You guys are all smart. What treaty did Chief Shingwak have a significant role in? Robinson-Huron Treaty, Great Lakes Treaty, Upper Canada Treaty? We have 2 Robinsons and 1 Upper. We'll go with Robinson-Huron because that is correct. Shingwak was Chippewa, Ojibwe, or Nipissing? Okay, I'm going to put the wrong answer in just so you can see what happens when you're wrong. So if you get an answer wrong, it means you have to start all over again. But if you get the answer right, you'll be given a code. And then you enter your code, which is Ojibwe. You can see it on my computer because it's set up on mine. On anybody else's, this would be blank. And then you would go to the next. And you click on the link and it takes you to the next challenge. And basically it goes through a similar process. So you are going to now learn about this person, and then you complete a different type of challenge, but it's same kind of idea. You collect, you know, you have to get to the end to get your code. You enter in your code, and then you get the link and it gets you to the next. So after you go through all of them, you'll get the final answer, and then you are finished. No, the questions aren't different. They're the same. So that is, that's the game. Oh, where did I go? Oh, it took me right out. Okay, I'll have to. Another little fix. There's another game as well under, now that I'm thinking about it, I believe it's, let me just quickly, I think it's here. Yeah. So in the Treaty of Niagara section is another game, or 2 games actually, that you can play just as another way of testing your knowledge and seeing what you know, and having kids do that. And
Okay,
pretty
so-
much, yeah.
And then the final turtle is just putting it all together, which we don't have to necessarily go through that, but. So.
Mhm.
So that's the resource. And of course there's like Jody was mentioning, just kind of, we did a quick overview. Yeah, so we welcome you to explore and, you know, share comments with us for sure. When was this, I just saw a question, when was this resource launched? It was launched last year. Correct? Yes. So typically all the resources have actually been launched during Treaty Week, which is the second week of November. So it would have been officially last year. So do you want to go on to your?
Yep, we'll just show you a couple other resources. So I created this, and you'll see that there's elements from the treaty kit last year. So here's the link I'm going to put in the chat box for you, and you can, so again, you can bookmark it and you can use this. So again, for primary, so K to 6 is, this is what this is good for. So if I click on the link, this is where it goes. So basically it's just 5 days of learning. And when you click on each day, there's just little things that, you know, just ideas that you can use in your classroom. And so you'll see again, taken from the kit. So go to day 2. There's another piece from the kit, day 3. So remember how we were saying like this resource is Anishinaabec focused. So this resource here is going beyond just Anishinaabec perspectives and information. So this now is Rick Hill, who's very highly regarded historian. And so there's a little video for him, for Haudenosaunee, wampum belts again. And then this is a really super cute video by Chad Solomon. I'll just play a little tiny snippet because it's super cute, especially for the little ones.
It means the essence of is hello in Anishinaabe, and if you break it down, it means the essence of me. I'm sharing the essence of me with all of you out there. My name is Rabbit, and I'm one of the great. That's what everyone else out there is as well. We're all the 7th generation. A treaty? I know. A treaty is a promise. And a promise is something I always keep. Put your hand over the left side of your body.
So you get the idea. And then a little bit of a, what can you do? Take action piece. And then the other one is, this one's more 7 to 12. So if anybody's in intermediate, so again, I'll pop, yeah, these links can be shared. So feel free, share away. Okay, grade, I'll just put a grade 7 to 12 link. A second. So I would just say, I would bookmark these. And again, okay, so we're going to click on the link really quickly, and then same idea. It's just 10 days of learning now. So you can click on, you know, we'll just click on day 4. So learn about the dish with 1 spoon. Let's go to day 7. This is another big resource that was created by FNMIEO. Actually, this is a good segue into, so you can find it here, or I'm going to go back to here. So this is another, and I'm going to put this one in the chat box for you as well. This series is, you can watch it in its entirety. It's just under an hour, or it's chunked out into broken down videos. And it really actually is great for adults like yourselves to just watch and learn information. It basically talks about the history of the displacement of Indigenous peoples, how treaties went from agreements to share to land theft and legislated genocide. It kind of walks through that process, but then also ends with now that we are learning about the truth of these lands, how can we do things differently together? How can we go back to what those original intents of the treaties were, which is land sharing for mutual benefit, so that everybody's benefiting from living here and having what we call Minobamadsuin, having a good life. So I'll just pop this in our words resource for you as well. So when you click on this one, I'll show you how it works. You click on the power button. This is the trailer. So we'll go to menu. We'll just skip the trailer. So again, they're broken down into small segments. And if you click on each one, it'll tell you kind of what the learning goal is and what's the main ideas presented in it. So they're all outlined like that. And then they're in like, maybe 4 to 6 minute videos. And if you want, at the very end, you can watch the whole thing in one shot. So you would, they follow the same thing. So click 08 on the remote to watch. So click 07 to watch. So that's how you watch the videos. So click on 09 and it'll bring it up, and then you can play it. And you can also pop it out big like you would, when you click on the button to pop it out. So there's that one. And I believe, and that brings us to the end. So we do have some time for questions. Please ask questions. This is our contact information. You can contact us as well, but let's ask us some questions. You can do it. You can ask questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, however you'd like. We've had every question.
Or you can also email us as well, because I know one person just put in, can they get the links via email? Just because they're on the phone. Find it here.
Would you mind putting in the link for the original package that you were showing? I got here a little late.
Oh, like the actual resource?
Please, yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
All right, then. There's no questions. Hopefully you found this information helpful, that you can, play around with the resources that have been shared and, take what you can use in your classroom to bring the learning forward. And, don't be, don't worry, don't be scared. It's new learning for everyone. I always recommend just start somewhere and start small, and then every year just build on to what you've started to do.
Christina, I see a raised hand.
Jody, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yep.
So in the summer, OECTA offered the mini workshops,
Yes.
and it was taught by someone through the London board, I believe, the London Catholic board. And Ray John was one of the speakers, and he offered on August the 30th, the 31st was early in the morning meeting at the board office, and then doing a lighting ceremony where we can go and they would all meet, and then we would go and he would perform the ceremony so that we could witness it, but then have the ability to talk about our experience with it so that we can share with our students. Is there something like that that is being done in other areas. Like I'm from Mississauga, just because I thought it would be something that I would have loved to see, but I would have had to drive to London the night before, book a hotel in order to go to get up early in the morning to see. So it didn't work out with the PA day being the next day and so forth. But is that something that is an option? Because he did say if you can, find a bunch of people who are interested, he goes, I could do another one.
Yeah, I mean, there's things happening kind of all over the place with different people. In Peel region, there's a friendship center, and then in Toronto, there's the oh my gosh, I'm going blank. The friendship center in Toronto. What the heck is the name of it? Oh, I'm going blank. Yeah, so I mean, there's things that come up and that are offered. Yeah.
Friendship center, because I hadn't heard about it, and when I took it, I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many resources. But then I realized there's a lot here. I just never heard about it and didn't know where to look. So it's just a matter of trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just these opportunities when they come about. Like that's the beautiful thing when you work with community and community members, that you get these times where you get to experience and witness things. And that's also something, we really advocate for. Like, if you are able to experience something like that, that's a gift for you. And those are things we wouldn't want to replicate in classrooms, that ceremonial piece, but certainly you could share your experience with that and the importance of it too. And it's a big movement right now, right? Because all of these things, it wasn't that long ago that these were all outlawed. You could go to jail. You could go to jail. You could have gone to jail not that long ago for showing up to something like that. Like that's, so these are the things that it's really important to learn about and that people are reclaiming for sure. Okay, I see lots of questions rolling in now. Okay, I'm gonna try and scroll backwards. Hang on.
I answered a few of them already.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. Yes, somebody is asking, can we share these resources? Yes, this is what they're all shareable. Did you answer the 2 books?
Not the 2 books. I answered children's books, Good Minds, workshops again, that one.
So the question is, what were the 2 books that were recommended near the beginning? So Arthur Manuel is the author. And he has 2 books. The one is called Unsettling Canada. If you just look up Unsettling Canada, the other book will pop up, which is the Reconciliation Manifesto. It's kind of like book 2. I think every single Canadian should read Unsettling Canada. It's really, really good. It just it lays the whole story out to try so that people start to have a better understanding as to what's been going on all this time.
Yeah, I think those were all of the questions so far. I don't think I missed anything. Oh, it's already in my Amazon cart. So I just want to guest speakers. So wouldn't they use their lead too, Jody?
Yeah, so every school board, okay, I'm making an assumption whoever's asked the question is in a school board. So I'm going to speak to school boards. Every school board has an Indigenous education lead. And you would go to that person their job is to help liaise and provide those connections. So and in my board and a few other boards, we have a pretty strict policy in terms of how to go about guest speakers, because unfortunately there are people out there who may pass themselves off to be Indigenous when they're not. And, it's a lucrative business for some people. And if you're not connected to the community around you or know kind of who's who, it can be, it can be problematic. So in our board, we have a policy that it has to go through our central Indigenous Education Department, and then we provide the connections for you. So we would ask, what are you teaching, what grade, what's the curriculum connections that you're looking to have that speaker, because everybody's also very different. Everybody has different gifts, different skills, different knowledges, so it's not like one person can just speak to everything and anything either, right? So we would know best who to align that teacher with. So that's my long answer of saying check with your lead.
Okay, so we're good?
I think so, unless there's not any
Okay.
other.
So I just wanted to, Downey Wenjack Foundation is also a great place to find speakers. Yeah, so I just wanted to say, Chimigwech, so thank you very much for everyone for attending, and please feel free to contact us with any, comments or further questions, and use the resources. They're, free for you to use and share. So that's all I have. Just Chimigwech. Jody?
Chimigwech and Bama P.
Until
Until we meet again.
Take care, everyone.